And we shall start with another summon. Will we get an F5? Will we not get an F5? There's an F4. One F4. Fair enough. Battle Comet. Oh, I don't think I have him actually. Nice. Will be interesting to see what he gets. Yeah, and for this video, I wanted to talk all about runes. As you know, runes are extremely important in this game. Just like the previous game from the Summoners War Saga, it is also really important here. I've checked that the runes themselves, I tried runing and unruning this unit, and they actually make up almost 50% of the total power. So you can imagine that like 60,000 power off of my current 122,000, that's like half of the strength. So yeah, getting good runes is definitely super important in this game. Yeah, and I just wanted to make a general guide about some changes that may be different from the base games. I mean, these rune set will be kind of familiar for you if you have played Summoners War Skyadino before. There's two new runes, which I'll explain what they do in a second. But if you haven't played them before and you're a new player to Summoners War Saga completely, then this guide will definitely allow you to understand a little bit of quirks with the runes. So yeah, to start off, these two runes. I know I had problem understanding what they do, so I just wanted to quickly explain it. Evasion and precision are actually two stats that counter each other. Precision is a stat that basically it's sort of similar to accuracy, but not exactly the same. So precision is your chance of landing a hit. So as you can see, 93% chance is basically gives me a 93% chance for my aerial to actually do damage to a unit, to an enemy unit. Whilst evasion is actually a counter stat to that, and there's a 17% stat to not get hit by a unit. So basically 17% of all enemy attacks will actually miss and will do 0 damage on me. I'd say the precision stat is definitely important when you want to land debuffs, since if you miss a hit, you also miss a hit to land debuffs. And from what I experienced in the dungeon that I farmed so far, I know that this little boss, I don't know if his evasion is really high or my precision is just not high enough, but I'm missing quite a few hits. I would say like third of the hits are being evaded. So the precision is definitely important. Go for as close as you can to 100%. But for defensive purposes so far, try to avoid evasion stats and opt out for the more important ones like the whole attack, defense, HP, like all of the stats above precision and evasion, I'd say are more important than evasion for now, unless you build very specific teams with high evasion stats, which will negate damage essentially. But I mean, yeah, it would be hard to find. It will be very RNG, so I would not recommend going for it now. But if you make a team in mind and you plan on doing a fully evasion build some sort, you can try to go for it. Also, this is mostly aimed for players who haven't played Summoners War Sky Arena before. Slot 2, 4, and 6 are actually a bit more important than slot 1, 4, 3, and 5. Here's why. Slot 2 will have, well, not just slot 2, but slot 2, 4, and 6 can actually hold both percentage stats and will hold some stats that other runes cannot. So for example, slot 2, no, actually it will be easier to start with this. HP and defense percentages can be acquired on all three slots. So slot 2, slot 4, and slot 6 can both have HP percent, defense percent, and I believe attack percent. And you should always aim for percentage values over the flat ones, since the stronger your unit is, the more stats we'll get from the percentage values over the flat values. Slot 2 can also have speed, or attack speed rather. Let me see. I believe I do not have any runes actually, or I have selected the wrong multiplier. Let me see. I know I had, I believe, attack speed on you. Yeah. So I don't know why it didn't show up, but oh, it shows now. Okay. Yeah. So attack speed is possible on slot 2. As you can see, I selected all, and it only shows slot 2 runes. Attack speed will basically grant you the ability to hit for your monsters to hit more often. So this could be useful for units that apply a lot of defense based on hits, for example, with basic abilities. So this guy, I set him up for that fire boss dungeon, where he provokes with his ability, and each hit with the basic attack has a chance to remove beneficial effects. So having more attack speed on him allows him to have more chances to remove the beneficial effects. So yeah, it will be useful on only a few monsters, I think, since it will mostly apply to those really nuke one-shot damage units and units that have various effects on their basic skills. But if none of your units need attack speed, you can always go for HP or def and attack based on the unit you need. Then going to slot 4, these can hold both crit rate and crit damage stats. As you can see, yeah, crit rate and crit damage. Yep. And these can only apply on slot 4. And crit rate and crit damage, well, they're mostly used on damage units. I believe yeah, this guy has a little bit of crit damage on my wind. Crit rate and crit damage, which one you should focus on? For early game, and I'm talking very early game, so I would say I still apply to that early game sort of period. You should go for crit rate as long as it's not 100%. If you are unable to get 100% and you're really far off, you can even opt out for a sort of a fatal build with purely attack and ignoring crit rate and crit damage, as that will allow you to do more damage as well. If you cannot make 100% crit, try to go for crit rate. I went for crit damage, but I should have went for crit rate since I just didn't get a rune back when I was runing this guy. So he's on crit damage now, but if I had a good rune here for crit rate, I would probably replace it. Try to hit 100% crit rate and then only go for crit damage. Otherwise, if you go for crit damage early and you attack like 150 crit damage but are left around with 40 crit rate, you'll just be missing a lot of hits, and with a low attack, that crit damage will barely ever proc. So if you see that your crit rate is, I'd say a good benchmark at least would be 70% or something like that. If you cannot hit 70%, I would recommend going for full attack build here. Yeah, it's only showing one rune since I have that. Yeah, you can go for maybe an attack percentage even on slot 4. See which rune set gives you more damage, I'd say, and go for that. And lastly, slot 6 can hold both accuracy and resistance. Do I have any runes? Yes, I do. Accuracy and resistance. They only appear on slot 6. So resistance for early game, I would not recommend using just yet, since resistance is it's sort of a stat that only is useful on very few units and very few particular teams, since the whole point of resistance is reducing the amount of debuffs you get. And well, in early game, debuffs is not what changes the gameplay. It's mostly your overall stats like attack, defense, HP, stuff like that. So don't focus on resistance too much. However, accuracy, I would say, is extremely important. It's one of the most important stats in this game. Accuracy is super useful for landing debuffs since rather than resistance, accuracy is something you have way more control of. So if you build units with high accuracy, you can actually build them on, well, you should build them on units that have a lot of debuffs on them, or have abilities that, for example, remove debuffs, since these also need accuracy. When you build high accuracy on these, you'll have a way higher chance of actually landing those. So for example, for me, not Kairos, wait, let me see. This guy, I currently can do 9. I'm close to completing 10, but I'm not just there yet. So for example, this vagabond, he's super useful with accuracy since the boss has an ability where he gains a lot of attack and debuff via attack and defense, I mean via buffs, and you need to strip those buffs, otherwise you will both be doing almost no damage and he will be hitting you super hard. And this guy, he removes debuffs on the first skill, so accuracy is super important for him. Going next, what runes should you rune on your units? This ultimately depends on both the sort of usability you're going for as well as his skill scalings. Uh, Most importantly, I'd say go look at the scalings of each unit and based on that decide which runes you'd like to use. So for example, my Ariel is there, well, he's mostly for the second and third skill of healing, so even though he has a scaling with attack for damage, I'm not counting on his attack being the main damage dealer. So I clearly ignore the attack there, and I can see that his heal is based on defense, and his third skill is also based on defense. Yeah, I believe the ultimate even is also based on defense. So if you see a unit that has specific scaling, or like you see a skill that needs specific scaling that you're going to use mostly, go exactly for that scaling. So as you can see, I went for triple guard, I went for defense and defense here. I went for HP here, but it's mostly because it's a guard rune and I haven't gotten a 5-star defense percentage rune yet. But since it had the defense subs, both flat and percentage, I just went for it. Yeah, so just check the monster that you are looking to use. So for example, this guy, attack, his damage skills on attack, skills on attack. Obviously, you are going for either a flat attack build. If you are able, you should go for attack plus crit rate and crit damage builds. I believe Valkyria was a quite interesting one. So her scaling is attack and max HP damage. So whilst attack damage will be quite useful here, she will have a little more benefit from stats like crit damage, since if you build attack, it will only scale with one part of the skill, whilst if you build crit and crit damage, it would both multiply this part of the skill and this part of the skill, and max HP damage is extremely important for bosses, so yeah. See the skills, see their scalings, and decide on the stats that you want to go. And lastly, I just wanted to make one more tip. Uh, I believe I already briefly talked about this, but if you're building attackers mostly, here's what I would suggest. Super early on, go for a Fatal Blade build. This is assuming you are not able to get even like 70% crit rate on a unit. Try to go for Fatal Blade. If you are not able to get a clean set of that, try to build Fatal and Broken, or whatever other set you manage to complete. After that, you can move on to a more crit damage build, and if Fatal Blade does not allow you to get a fully, like a high crit damage build, you can go for Triple Blade and make sure that your crit rate is as high as possible. And in the later game, once you are able to easily hit 100% crit rate, try to build a Rage Blade set, since Rage Rage Rune bonus, crit damage is a bit more higher than the blade, like 2 sets of blade of being 24%. So yeah, early game fatal blade or fatal whatever, a little bit later triple blade, and in the end you aim for Rage Blade. So yeah, that's about it for this video. That's all I wanted to explain regarding runes, and see you in the next one.